Hi everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. I'm Amma Mama. I forgot to actually film an intro because the video that you're going to watch was part of my reading my screen time or replacing my screen time with reading for a week video, but it was getting so long, and so I decided I wanted to just kind of separate it and add it later to kind of review what I read in a little more detail and everything. So that is what you're watching, so enjoy. All right, so first I will say this challenge was so much harder than what I thought it was going to be, because I feel like I read a lot on any given day. So I thought, oh, 6 hours and 45 minutes, that won't be too bad. However, I was not taking into account, basic life things. My child who has wants and needs, and school for the kids, and errands and appointments, and all of those things that take time. And while I did try to carry a book with me, and there was a couple of days my time might have been a little bit closer than what it was portrayed in what I did, because I did have an audiobook that I would listen to or try to listen to while I was driving, of Pretty Little Things that I've been just slowly reading. It was just harder than I thought, especially when I would start strong in the morning, or I would think I would, start strong, and then it would get later and later in the day, things would happen. And then sometimes I would get to the evening and I would be like, oh, I've only got, 4 hours of reading left and it's only 5 or 6, and I would think that would be perfect. And sometimes I noticed my brain would just shut down and try as hard as I wanted to. I would find myself like, oh, what's on TV? Oh, what's my son? His name's Azrael, by the way. That'll just be easier. But I'd be like, wonder what Azrael's up to. Or he would be like, play this game with me. And so, for whatever reason, because I told myself I needed to read for those 6 hours and 45 minutes a day, it started feeling more like a chore rather than me just being like, oh, I want to pick up my book. So that was definitely challenging. What I did learn, though, is that I am on my phone a lot more than I realized, doing random things. And some of it is definitely games, some of it's YouTube, but one of them is some silly game that I started playing years ago. I think it's called like Township. And it's, like I said, it's kind of just a silly game, but when I just need something quick to distract my brain or whatever, like I just play it. And so there were some days where that game took a lot of my time, that and like Roblox with my son. So some YouTube, but I tend to watch YouTube a lot more on my TV than I do on my phone. So it was really more like games and stuff like that. So it was definitely eye-opening to realize how much I was on my phone. One of the differences that I think made it harder for me to do that much time reading versus when I'm on my phone is that sometimes when I'm on my phone, I'm just randomly scrolling at times where I might have like 1 or 2 minutes in between doing stuff, or if I'm waiting somewhere or whatever, I might grab my phone and play my game for a couple of minutes here and there. Whereas with reading, I think I tend to reserve it for when I know I've got at least a decent chunk of time. Like I hate picking up one of my books and then being like, oh, well, I got to read for a minute, now I've got to put it back down. That drives me crazy. So I tend to reserve my reading time for when I'm able to read for a longer chunk. All that being said, so even though this challenge was in some ways an epic fail, it was definitely eye-opening for various reasons. I mean, my hair, guys, I one night I was sitting there reading, and then I got it in my head. I was like, I don't want my hair long anymore. It's driving me crazy, and I'm sick of always just piling it up in a weird, crazy bun on the back of my head. And I did this like 2 minutes after I sat down to finish my reading for that evening, that it was just like I could not concentrate until I did something with my hair. And so I went downstairs and told my sister, I was like, I need you to cut my hair. And she's like, I'm not cutting your hair. And I basically bully threatened her into it, because I was like, if you don't cut it, I'm gonna flip my head over and I'm gonna cut it myself, and it's gonna look even worse. And so she said again, she's like, I really don't want to cut your hair. And I was like, it'll grow back, it'll be fine if it looks horrible, I just want it cut. So finally she cut it for me. And then after that I was like, okay, and now I'll go back to read. And I did come back and read some more that night, but it's that kind of thing. Like it was like I knew that I needed to be reading for what I was trying to do this week, but I kept coming up with like reasons why I couldn't read yet. And sometimes it was real things, like, you know, sometimes it was like, okay, I gotta go do the kids' school with them, or, you know, my son's got an appointment, or, you know, take Azrael to drums, whatever it was. Like, there was a lot of times legitimate things, but other times it was just me being like, suddenly I need to clean something that I haven't even thought about cleaning all week, but now I must clean it before I do anything else. So I don't know what that says about me, but that's kind of what happened. Now on the good parts, like I did get a good amount of reading done this week, and I did finish at least one book that's on my little bookcase back here with all the books that I've owned that I have not read yet. And so that was good. So I'm going to go through and I'll do a real quick wrap up. I mean, you saw most of these books during the other part of the video, but I'll just kind of do a quick wrap up with a final thoughts on them. Maybe I have the memory of, I don't know what, a gnat. Like, my memory, I think, sucks. And so some of these, I don't even remember what I rated them while I had just finished reading them and I was checking in. But now that it's been a few days, I'll kind of talk about what I thought about them now. So, and this isn't necessarily the order I read them in, but the first, so I read 3. I mean, I got about 65%, a little over halfway of the Stephen King book, The Dark. Well, I guess I'll start with this one because I picked it up. This is the one I'm still working on, but this is Wizard and Glass, and this is the 4th book in the Dark Tower series. So I got a little over halfway finished with this one. So I mean, this was almost, I mean, even though that's only a little over halfway, I'm on page 596. So this is almost like the equivalent of 2 books so far. So, you know, if we want to call that 2 books just for fun, we can, even though it's not, it's just this one book. But page count, this is almost the equivalent of 2 books. And so with that, and then the other ones that I read, that would be like 6 books read. But in reality, I read three complete books, and then, like I said, a little over half of this. This book has definitely been really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. I don't want to go into a whole lot of details, but I'll kind of read a little bit of the synopsis stuff on the back. But again, it's continuing the story of Roland, the gunslinger, and now he's got like his band of gunslingers, and I think they call it Ka. They're connected by Ka, which is I don't even know. I guess I would think of it as almost like their souls somehow, but they're all kind of interconnected. And so they come together, and he's brought them to his world, and they're trying to find the Dark Tower. And so I don't want to say too much more of that, but this particular story is going a lot into some history of a couple of the people that Roland has talked about before in the book, one of them being a girl that he was in love with, who, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but from the other books, like it seems like and plus she's not in any of the other books, so I assume that she was killed somehow. And so this story is going into what has kind of led him to the point where he is now and how he got there. And so it's more like a flashback. And so it's been really good, and it's definitely been a good story so far, and I'm enjoying it. And so now I just, I want to finish the last bit of this and find out what happens, and then I'm gonna have to pick up the other ones from the library. Like I said, I think there's 8 total, and this is the 4th. Maybe there's 7 total, but anyways, this is the 4th, so I've got a few more in this series. But so far, I still am rating. I would say this book so far, I'm at like a 4 stars. I mean, I think overall the series is going to end up getting a 5-star review from me, unless when I get to the other ones, something about them, like, they just suck. But so far, I'm really enjoying these. The next one I picked up was The Theory of Not Quite Everything by Kara Node. And I didn't even read the back of the book to see what it was about, or at least not clearly. And then when I had watched people talk about it, I think for some reason the only thing that stuck in my head was, like, I thought it was just a romance, and I don't think it's really. I think it's more fiction. I mean, there is some romantic stuff in it, to the extent of there's a love interest for actually even a couple of the characters, but I had gone into it thinking it was like a romance, and so when I first started reading it, I was like, well, this is like one of the most depressing romance novels I've read before. And then I realized as I was reading that it was not meant to be just a romance. And so when I changed kind of how I was reading it in that sense, I really enjoyed this a lot. Again, I don't want to say a whole lot, but I feel like it definitely touched on so many different types of relationships in a short amount of time, and I think she did a pretty good job of it. I was thinking that the brother in this book, Art, Art is his name. So Art and Mimi are siblings, and this is all kind of on the back cover, but she decides that she's lonely. She's been kind of taking care of her brother, and he's a mathematician, and so he lives a lot in his head. They don't really say that he's autistic, but the way it reads, it makes me think of somebody who is at least somewhere on the spectrum, to where, like, he definitely, he could live alone, he could take care of himself, all of those things, but he kind of lives in his head, and he's very analytical, and he doesn't seem to read social cues well and all of that. So that's why I kind of read it in that light, because I do have a lot of people in my life who are on the spectrum, and so that was kind of how I read it. I don't know if that's how she was intending it to be read, or if she was just intending it that he was a very eccentric kind of mathematician who again just lived in his head because of his genius. But either way, I liked his character after I got out of the headspace of this is going to be a complete romance. But anyway, so his sister Mimi decides that she's lonely, doesn't want to just take care of her brother, she wants love, and so they go into a plan to help her find someone, but then she meets someone unexpectedly, and that really throws her brother for a loop because it's not following this formula that he gives. And then I don't want to say a whole lot, but a bunch of stuff happens, and there's some drama going on and some other things that that I was surprised happened, and I found myself really like interested in, like, okay, what's going to happen next, and was this true, was this not true, and all of those things. And then there was, like I said, the actual like romance story kind of stuff going on that I would have expected. So all in all, I really enjoyed this book. I don't remember what I said when I was first reading it, and I don't know if because it's been a while since I've read any newer works, newer to me. I mean, I don't even know. I know this book, I think, came out in at least I gotta check. I know it was newer, where it seems like a lot of the books I have, 2023, a lot of the books that I have on my shelf I've had for so long that they're like older. So it's been a long time since I've read things that have just come out. So maybe I don't have a lot to base my opinions on quite yet, as far as like writing and how I'm thinking about them, because maybe it's the newness of the stuff, but I'm just really enjoying reading these newer books. But anyways, so maybe later I would change my rating, but I think I would give this a 4, at least a 4-star, maybe a little higher. At first I was thinking I was going to give it only like a 3-star because I did like it, but after I had been done reading it for a while, I realized I really liked it, so I gave that a 4.5. The next book that I read is Laughter is Sacred Space by Ted Swartz. And again, this was another one. This one had been sitting on my shelf for years. I've had this one for at least 3 years, which is not that long comparatively speaking for my books, because some of them, you guys, have been on my shelf for like probably 10 or 15 years and I haven't picked them up. So the fact that I've only had this one for 3 years is not too bad. But I did finally continue reading it. I think I'd mentioned in another point in time somewhere that because I thought this was going to be all comedy, and then I realized there were going to be parts that were sad, I'd put it down. But it was really good. It was well written. It was definitely thoughtful. It touched on some really heavy stuff, along with the emotions that go along with that. There was some parts in here that just were really touching. Even so it's 2 guys. One of them took his own life, but they were best friends and business partners in a comedy troupe that they had. And so the one who is still here wrote this book talking about, you know, their relationship and how they met and just how their group came to be and how hard it was, and after his friend was gone, and what effects that had on him as an artist, as a person, just all of those things. And so there definitely were, you know, funny things in here, but there was definitely things in here that there were definitely things in here that were funny, but there were also things in here that were really, really sad. Along with that, there was I was trying to see if I could find it really quick. There's a line in here that really struck me, and someone actually turned it into a song. Sorry, I don't have it right in front of me, so I might be messing up the quote a little bit. But when Ted was talking to somebody after the death of his friend Lee, the person he was talking to said something along the lines of like, you know what? Hang on. I wrote the quote down. So I'm gonna. Okay, so he said, at the end of his time at the camp, standing on the sidewalk saying goodbye, Sue on my right, my brother on my left, Bart said, I won't tell you that I'll pray for you every day, because I don't do that even to my good friends. But on the days that I believe in God, I will lift you up. And so that inspired the song. It was called Someday I Will Believe by Trent Wagler. And I haven't heard the song before, but the lyrics were in the book. And dude, when I got to that part, I was crying so hard, because it just touched on so many things, and just thinking about the fact that it can be easy to forget that, you know, even for those people who are Christian, like, and who believe in God or whatever, it can be hard to remember that we're also still human, and there are times that we, you know, you're not in a place where you're feeling spiritual or you're feeling God or whatever. And so it was just kind of like that reminder of that, you know what, I can't always promise that I'm going to, you know, pray for you every day, but on the days that I believe in God, I will. And so I don't know, it just struck me pretty powerfully. And so I would give this book a 4-star, maybe 4.5, just for the rawness of parts of it. But it was really good. It was, even if you don't know, because it's, the full title of the book is Laughter is Sacred Space, the Not So Typical Journey of a Mennonite Actor. So even if you're not familiar with Ted Swartz or Mennonites or anything like that, and I'm not Mennonite, he came to, I'm part of the Church of the Brethren, and he had come to one of the churches and did a show, and so I picked up the book after the show. So it was good. And then the last book, and I'm sorry because I feel like this video is getting longer than I had intended. I meant for this to be a really quick wrap up, and now it's getting a little bit more. But the last book that I read was Happy Place by Emily Henry. And again, I've heard mixed things from people on this, and I don't know if it's because this is the first Emily, well, no, it's not the first one. I did read Beach Read also, which I really loved as well. But I haven't read a lot of Emily Henry. I don't know, is there more than just those two? Again, this was the first time I had picked up new books in years. And so, but I loved this book so much. And again, I don't want to like give anything away for if anybody happens to have not read it yet. But I loved the way this was written, because it is a romance, but I loved that it went back and forth between what had happened to their relationship of Harriet and Wynne are the two main characters. And so they were engaged and they broke up, and I don't want to explain why, but they end up being together on a trip. And so the book goes back and forth explaining like both their history and the present, which I really, really liked. But on top of that, there was some stuff in here that really touched home for me on the way she dealt with relationships and not being taught how to fight. Was one of the things that Harriet's character said in here. She said, I never learned how to fight. And that really struck home for me, because I thought, you know, I related to that a lot. I know that some people had mixed reviews about it because they liked some of her other writings better. I really, really enjoyed this. So I don't remember what I rated it when I first read it, but I mean, I would give this at least a 5.5 stars, or sorry, a 4.5 stars, maybe even 5, because I just thought the writing was really smart, as well as it had that comedy and that romantic part and just all of those things that I look for. And it was such a good read that I read this book, I think, faster than any of the other ones, or pretty close, because it was one that I had picked up at the end of the evening, and thought I would at least just get started on it. And I ended up reading all but like 100 pages of it, I think. And then I finished it the next morning. So I really enjoyed it. Anyways. Oh my gosh. I just finished Fourth Wing, and it was so good. I am so excited for the fact that I think it's Iron Wing is coming out. I'm thinking I'm going to pre-order a copy. I know it doesn't come out till November, but I saved this one for the last book for the month. And when I got to the end, I kept putting it down because I was getting so stressed about what was going to happen. And I cannot believe the turn that it took at the end. I did not see coming what happened at the end of this book. It was so good. I definitely am giving this 5 stars. It's probably one of the funnest books I have read in a while. And I don't know if fun's exactly the right word, but there was just so much stuff in this that I loved so much that it like made me laugh out loud. I was crying at one point. So I wholeheartedly would recommend this book. I know there are some people, like, I haven't completely watched like their reviews, but there are some people who have said they don't like it, and I don't see how that is even possible. But if you have not, for some reason, if you have not read this yet, by the time you see my tiny little video here, go get this book and read it. It is so good. So 5 stars. So that is it for this video. I don't know if I would do this particular challenge again. If I did, I think I would need to do it on a week where maybe we're out of school on a break, something where I don't have quite as many regular commitments to do, just because it was a little bit stressful. And like I said, I found myself, because I felt like I had to read, I found myself not wanting to read as much as what I think I normally do. So yeah, all in all, I mean, I had fun doing it, but a couple of times I was pretty disappointed in myself that I had not gotten in my reading time. And again, like even last night, I had time. I mean, yesterday I had the time to do it, but then like as the evening came and it had been a longish day, I had run some errands and ended up going, was that yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. But anyways, I ended up going to lunch with my husband, and we just had I just had a lot of stuff come up. But even in the evening, I was like, oh, I got plenty of time, because I only had like 4 hours left to read, and or 5 hours, and I read for a while, and then I ended up playing Roblox with Azrael for a little while, and then I was like, oh, I've got all these shows recorded that I haven't watched, that I just suddenly, it was very important that I get them watched and deleted from my cloud DVR, because that was just suddenly the most important thing in my life. But I don't know, maybe I needed the mental break, or maybe, like I said, maybe it was just that I don't do well even telling myself what to do, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, so that is it for today's video. If you stuck around to the end, thank you. And I will see you all next week. Bye.